takes from the deep end.
All right, fellas, this is one of my favorite segments. I absolutely love this. So it's time for takes from the deep end, right? This is where, for those that are not aware, this is where hot takes come in from our fan base, from our viewers, from people that comment on all of our social medias. And I present these hot takes to my lovely co-hosts, and they sink or swim.
Oh, thank
So
you.
let's start with you, Mr. Anthony. All right.
All right, let's do it.
Takes from the deep end, where both lines are important to a successful season, the Miami Dolphins should prioritize finishing the defensive line build, as it is much closer to completion, given that defense wins championships. This is not to say that the O-line is not important.
That is tough, man. I actually don't know what my opinion on that is, to be honest. I don't believe that the defensive line is that much closer. We have two pieces on the defensive line, and I could argue that we have three on the offensive line. 3 out of 5, 2 out of 4, so it ends up being the same. That's
fair. That's fair.
6 or half a dozen, right? Yeah, I agree that defense wins championships. If we're looking at the Eagles and how they dismantled the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, it was very much through defense. And I would love to see a good defense again. I mean, like a really game-changing defense. I know statistically our defense did okay last year, but in games where we lost them at certain times. We lost them against Seattle, and we lost them in some key moments throughout the year last year. So if you're asking me would I rather see a dominant offensive line or a dominant defensive line, I would probably agree that I'd rather see a dominant defensive line. More fun to watch.
I love it. I love it. I love it. You guys want to chime in on this, or?
I'd rather see a dominant offensive line.
Okay. What about you, Taylor?
Dominant offensive lines are just. I love it so much.
I saw that. Now, granted, the Eagles won with both, but seeing Saquon Barkley just.
Yeah.
It sounds like I'm diminishing Saquon Barkley getting him 2,000 yards.
No,
he is an excellent running back, top 3 running back in the league. But seeing him behind an exceptional offensive line is beauty.
This is a split panel. This is a split panel, fellas, because I'm with Anthony.
Taylor, I couldn't agree more with you, man. Watching that Eagles offensive line, it's.
All right,
it makes me feel certain things.
I think the people would agree with us.
What, Taylor?
What was it?
I said, I think the people would agree with us.
Well, disagree. You don't know. Scotty, chime in. You let us know.
No, Scotty knows. Scotty knows.
Scotty doesn't know.
But in all honesty, Anthony, you brought up the Eagles as a reason for wanting a great defensive line. The Eagles had both, and that's what was so impressive to me about their team this year was their defensive line dominated that Chiefs offensive line, and it was really cool to see. But their offensive line was equally as dominant, and I think that's the dream, right? That's what we're all going for.
You can't say both in this question because then
you can't cop out. You pick one and you stick with it.
I want to be that little girl from that taco commercial. Why not both? And then everybody just celebrates.
Have some conviction, Keith. Come on.
Yeah.
No.
Put it on the table. All right, fellas. Keith, this is actually coming right to you, buddy.
All right.
Takes from the deep end. If Mike McDaniel ends up getting let go next season, who would be a better fit as our new head coach? Bobby Slowik, who was a top head coach candidate last offseason, or Anthony Weaver, who was a top name this offseason?
Anthony Weaver. He brings an air of toughness. There's a little bit of gravitas because he was a former player, played in the NFL for almost a decade. I think, I wasn't a huge fan of Slowik as a head coach candidate anyway. Anthony Weaver probably should have gotten a job. I would have hired him over Kellen Moore personally.
For sure. Not even close. Yeah.
So Anthony Weaver, absolutely. Give me those two names, Anthony Weaver, 100%.
Perfect. Real quick, Anthony, Slowik or Weaver?
I'd probably go fresh, to be honest. If I have to pick one, it'd be Weaver.
Well, of course, yeah. Yeah, I'd go fresh. I'd go fresh too. But you give me those two options, Anthony Weaver.
Taylor, quick. Anthony Weaver.
Weaver.
Slowik. Weaver. I love it. Clean sweep, fellas. Clean sweep. All righty, Taylor. Are you ready, sir?
I am ready.
Excellent. Buckle up, buddy. Takes from the deep end. If the team's top choice at each position is on the board when they pick in the first round, should the Dolphins take an offensive lineman, a defensive lineman, a tight end, or a safety?
Why did you do this to me?
Because I love you.
That's tough.
I despise you for that's the one I had to pick. Oh man.
You can only pick one. There's no trading down. There's nothing. You have to pick one of these positions. Your best player on your on the Miami Dolphins board is available on each one of these. Who are you taking? Which is honestly probably close to accurate.
I had to just explain this just so I don't get absolutely destroyed. I'm assuming
Kicker.
what I would like to do is, see some offensive linemen get signed in for agency. I do actually like the interior offensive line class once you get into it in for agency. With that being said, with all the top options on the board, I'm going tight end because I'm fully on the Tyler Warren train.
Fancy.
He's sticking with his
Hey,
Tyler
Kyle
Warren
Krabs.
take.
Yeah, Kyle Krabs, a few weeks ago. I think it was a few weeks ago. It seems like he's on
last
board
week.
too.
Last week, Warren. Yep.
Oh, time has no meaning anymore.
Oh, so you're just stealing other people's takes, Taylor? Is that what you're doing here?
Oh, God. Hey, when I brought up the Tyler Warren thing, it was like a month ago.
You're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't, Taylor. All right, so you're taking a kicker. Anthony, what about – no, I'm kidding. You're
Yeah, I'm taking
a
the
tight
kicker.
end.
Let's go.
Hey,
What
you
about
can play
Anthony?
kicker too.
Yeah, I'm going one of the trenches, offensive line, defensive line.
Pick one.
Whichever one's better. Yeah.
You have to pick one. They're all the best player on your board at each position.
It's not going to be tight end or safety. That's ridiculous. And at pick 13, I feel like. So I will go offensive line.
Okay, what about you?
Well, Taylor, as much as I love Tyler Warren, and I do love me some Tyler Warren, that guy is Travis Kelce reincarnated, honestly. Offensive line, always offensive line for me.
I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. Malachi Starks kind of seems really nice at 13, but that's fine. Honestly, I'm probably going defensive lineman. I think with how this draft is, there's quality guards later on in the draft, quality defensive linemen. There's like 3 or 4, in my opinion. All right, excellent. Fellas, do we have time for one more for everyone, or maybe one more for the group?
Let's do. I mean, if we can keep it short, let's do one more for everyone. I mean, we went an hour 45 last week. I don't see any reason why we can't do it again this week.
Excellent. So I'm going to do. There's one for everyone, and then there's one for the entire group at the very, very, very end.
Okay.
And it will be very short. All right, Anthony, you're back up, buddy.
Yeah, man. That's what I live for.
With the hiring of Bobby Slowik as a senior passing game coordinator, the hope is that Mike McDaniel will feel comfortable enough to relinquish some semblance of control designing and calling plays on Sundays. What are your thoughts? I forgot the on Sundays. Whoops.
My thoughts are is that it's like we're propping up a child to grab onto the monkey bars because they can't reach themselves. Like, I have no idea what the structure is that we have here. But we have an offensive coordinator. Last time I checked, what the hell is he doing? Like,
developing a quarterback.
Right. So then we bring in Bobby. Like, well, the offensive coordinator is fine. Frank Smith is doing great. Let's bring in a passing game coordinator, whatever the heck that means.
Yeah. Who the hell knows?
And then everything will get better. Like, I have soured on Mike McDaniel after this past season. I just saw the team quit on him. There just wasn't enough there, man. Like, I know Scotty's, in the chat over here blaming Weaver for some of his defensive stuff, but like, the offense put this defense in a terrible position in so many ways. And changes weren't made to the offense that should have been made so many times. Like, sure, having a passing game coordinator, maybe that helps with the planning. Great. But it doesn't help with the really poor decision making that happens in the moment at game time every single Sunday. And I don't know what else we could do to prop the guy up other than hire another head coach and call him like co-head coach or something like that. Like, I don't know.
The senior passing game coordinator.
Right. Like, what other positions are we gonna make up here to prop up this coach? Yeah. If you need that much help, then you're probably not the guy.
I love it. Do you what about you, Taylor, Keith, want to weigh in or move on?
I'll chime in real quick. I think that
Oh, boy.
I don't know about if you can prop up coaches kind of thing, because look at Bob Saleh went to Green Bay last season and what was pretty much just a consulting role. I wouldn't say LaFleur is a bad coach. Like, I'm not trying to sit here and be like, Mike McDaniel's a great coach, but I'm also not sitting here going, Bobby Slowik is this hot name that, well, I also am excited that he's on the team and he's part of the coaching staff. And what does seem like we'll throw you somewhere on the payroll kind of role. I'm not sitting here going like, oh man, the whole offense is going to change, because he got fired from Houston, and a lot of Houston fans were very glad that he is not there anymore. That's how bad that offense regressed.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see with Slowik, but I'm not going to sit here and go like, oh man, this just shows McDaniel's not the guy.
Well, and I think that this take is more about this person, this fan, the person that commented, that sent this in.
Mm-hmm.
I'm interpreting this as, I don't want, I being this person, I don't want McDaniel calling plays anymore. Can we please give it to someone? Do you think Slowik should be it? Right? That is how I interpreted this. It's not, hey, he should replace McDaniel. It's, for the love of God, McDaniel needs to focus. Well, McDaniel needs to be the head coach and not also the offensive play caller, right? Because there's so much to deal with. So insert name, Bobby Slowik, Frank Smith, whoever. Do you think someone, I guess, if I'm paraphrasing this take, do you think that someone should take over play calling duty for Mike McDaniel so that Mike McDaniel can focus on everything else? And in this case, this case, he chose Bobby Slowik to be that person.
I'm with Scotty.
I agree with that take then.
I don't think he's given up play calling in any capacity.
Yeah.
No, I don't either, and I agree with you there, Anthony. But look, we've mentioned Philadelphia a few times this year. We've mentioned, what worked in Philadelphia. Well, Nick Sirianni relinquished control play calling duties, gave it to Kellen Moore. Granted, Kellen Moore is an accomplished play caller, but he relinquished that to Kellen Moore and kind of just oversaw everything, and that worked. Now what works in Philadelphia might not necessarily work in Miami. I'm actually going to buck the trend here, guys, and I'm going to say I'm okay with McDaniel calling plays again this season. I think a lot of the lackluster play calling, the screens that drove Anthony out of his mind. I'm surprised you still have hair left after this season, Anthony.
It's going away very quickly, dude.
Why do you think I'm wearing a hat?
Yeah.
Why do you think I'm wearing a hat?
Look at I had a brown full beard before the season started.
Even worse, it used to be red. Now
I'm okay with getting back to play calling duties. I think a lot of his play calls, a lot of his screens drove us nuts so much. That's a product of not having an offensive line that you can trust to block for more than 3 seconds.
That's fair. That's a fair point.
The running game that couldn't get going. Now you're behind the sticks at 3rd and 8, and you don't want to get Tua killed, so you just throw a bubble screen in hopes that maybe Tyreek Hill or Jalen Ramsey can bust one, or Devon Achane. You're very limited as a play caller if you don't trust your offensive line. And I'm not excusing Mike McDaniel. I'm saying let's pump the brakes on. Let's put our pitchforks away real quick and just okay.
No. I mean, look, I'll tell you this. I've stopped pointing it at his neck. Now it's just at my side.
Okay.
But I'm still holding on to it.
My quick counter to that would be like, if you're not throwing the ball deep, then everybody proved that they don't need to worry about it, and they just stayed up against the line and they shut us down every play. And I don't know if that's on McDaniel or Tua. I truly don't, or the wide receivers for that matter, because we saw some bad wide receiver play this year.
Yeah. Whatever they had going on this year just wasn't working. Just all across the offense.
Yeah.
Just to quickly add on to Keith's point, that we can move on.
Yeah, we do have to move on.
2023, we had Robert Hunt on the team, who was an exceptional guard, and you did have a better offensive line. And I remember quite a few times we're sitting at 3rd and 10, 3rd and 15, and I honestly was not that worried because
it was like a 50-yard bomb, and it was right on the money.
Yeah.
No, you're absolutely right, Taylor. In 2023, 3rd and 10 didn't feel nearly as daunting as it did
Yeah.
this past season.
All right, fellas, we got to move on. We got a few more to get to. All right. So, Taylor, you're next. Would you rather have a wide receiver take about, or rather, a take about a free agent wide receiver, or a take about a wide receiver that is on this team currently?
Free agent.
All right. Takes from the
I
deep.
want to name names.
Since Debo has officially requested a trade from the 49ers, would you pounce if the return is reasonable, or do you think that his decline is irreversible?
I wouldn't say it's irreversible. I just wouldn't do that trade because he's an aging vet and he's already on a contract that we'd have to pay. So I'd decline that.
So if it was for like a, and I'm making this up, like a, and I'm not saying they would ever take this, like a 5th round pick and a Tyndall. I don't know. Like, would you take his contract and him as a player, or no, we're good. Let's stay away. We'll draft a young guy. We'll sign him free agent and call it a day.
I don't mean to hedge bets, but it would also depend, I guess, on Tyreek at that point to be like, can we offload Tyreek for a second and a third, or second or a third? And because I just don't want all 3 wide receiver contracts there. That's just too much.
That's fair.
Considering the last 2 episodes we just did.
Nope, that's real fair.
Position needs.
Yeah, that's real fair. Anthony, Keith, what are your guys' thoughts?
Yeah, and this is a fragile gadget player that had one good season and fooled them into giving a whole lot of money, and now they're regretting that decision. So no thanks.
Yep.
I wouldn't do Tyndall for Debo.
Yeah, clean sweep.
I wouldn't do
clean sweep because I'm in the same boat you guys are. And just as a reminder for those that are joining late, these are not our takes. These are takes submitted by fans. We're reading them and we're chatting about them. All right, Keith. Last but not last, it's the last one for you individually, and then we have a fun final one. All right.
Okay, let's do it.
Do you think that Tyreek Hill's apology was genuine, and that, per Armstead, there was quite a lot for him to address and work through with the team? And I'll fill in the blanks here after he quit on the team.
I do think Tyreek's apology was genuine, and I think Tyreek does want to mend some bridges in Miami. Now, I think Teron Armstead he's onto something there when he says that he needs to make amends with the team, but I don't know that it's as grievous as he made it out to be. I think everybody knows what kind of guy Tyreek Hill is. He's emotional.
He likes tall women.
He likes tall. Oh God. Oh man. Everybody knows what kind of guy Tyreek Hill is. He's an emotional guy. He's he had a rough season last year. And apparently he had a broken wrist all season. His season started off with being wrongfully arrested, guys. We need to take this entire 2024 season, put it in the trash, and move on. And I think that's what Tyreek Hill is going to try to do with the Miami Dolphins. Now look, he's going to make headlines off the field as he always does. But I do think he's genuine. I think he wants to be better. And I think a guy like, Teron Armstead has a good beat on things.
Yeah.
So hopefully we can just move forward because I don't think we're getting rid of Tyreek at this point.
I like it. Anthony, what are your thoughts, if you have any?
Yeah, what's the over-under on kids he's having in 2025? I want to get in on that.
Hopefully less than he has touchdowns.
Yeah. No, but I think, knowing, Josh, that you're a huge Ted Lasso fan, I think this is a real Jamie Tart situation here, who is an all-star player for the team, burns tons of bridges, and then has to come back crying and apologizing to the team until
be a goldfish.
Yeah. He has to mend bridges. Anytime you say something like that, whether it's through raw emotion or not, like, you said it, and you said it publicly, very publicly.
Yeah.
So there's going to be some, a bunch of times, right? So there's going to be lots of mending that he has to do in relationships in the locker room. Lucky for him, half the team's free agents. So
I mean, that's fair. That's fair. Taylor, what about you, bud?
Yeah, I agree with you guys. I do think it was genuine. It's just that I don't really know what his future on the team is. Like, that's kind of I'm very curious to see what we end up doing in free agency, because I think that's going to tell like what not only his trade value is going to be, but what exactly, like, will we be able to address that wide receiver room even more?
I mean, there is no conceivable future where he's on this team past this year, anyways. With a $53 million
That's kind of what I'm
cap hit,
saying. Like,
right? So
Yeah.
this is one and done,
mhm.
essentially.
Yeah. And, and because this is one and done, and because I'm sure Tyreek Hill, in order to pay for all those children that he has, probably wants another contract, he will probably, hopefully, maybe,
not be
please
Javon
God,
Holland.
play on his best behavior, be on his best
Yeah.
behavior this season.
Yep.
I mean, I think
All
the
right.
power move here for Greer is to trade him before the deadline this year.
Yep.
If we don't trade him this offseason, like, see how you're doing. If you're 500 or lower, just get rid of him.
Yep, get what you can and move on, right?
Yeah.
Because not for nothing at this point, the $51 million or $48 million or whatever it is that we'd be saving next year is a win no matter what we get for him. So, All right, fellas, and last but certainly not least, this one came in kind of the 23rd hour as I was putting the panel together, and I laughed hysterically for far too long than I would care to admit. Is Einhorn Finkel? Or is Finkel Einhorn? And for those of you that don't know, this is an Ace Ventura reference. So, fellas, is it Einhorn is Finkel or is Finkel Einhorn?
I don't even know how to answer this.
They're honestly, I just thought this was hilarious. There's no way to answer it. Taylor's like, what the are you guys talking about?
I
haven't seen this movie in years.
I'm gonna say Einhorn is Finkel.
I like it. All right, fellas, that is it from the takes from our fans. I will have a whole nother subset of them for next show. I'm excited.
Yeah.
If you have any opinion, there you go, Scotty. Finkel is Einhorn. I agree with you. If you do have a take that you'd like us to read, feel free to comment on this video with that take. Comment on any video with a take, and we will grab it, and it will make the cut.